Greetings everyone, my name is Napoleon Complex, welcome back to our Total War Saga Troy, and welcome back to Unit Analysis. A recent video posted by Legend of Total War underlined a problem with the balance of chariots in this game. Legend showed a battle where he overwhelmed two full armies of Trojan forces, filled with heavy spearmen, bowmen and other chariots, as well as a smattering of other units. Using just a spam of chariots, not even heavy chariots like the ones I have here, but just light basic chariots of these kinds here with a little bit of experience. So what I want to investigate right now is, and this has consequences for the eventual release of multiplayer, can a balanced army that you could reasonably take into battle against another kind of army, say for instance this army here, defeat a full stack of chariots confidently and even in the hands of the AI, because my chariot spam should not be able to beat this Trojan army. We have champions of Troy, we have loads of heavy Trojan spearmen, so these are all heavy spearmen. They should be able to stop a chariot charge dead in its tracks, however many there are. We also have renowned archers in the back rows who will be able to pour fire into the chariots, and we have 4 of our own chariot units themselves. And what I want to investigate today is, can we beat the chariot spam with a more balanced army? Let's get into it. Here we are. So I'm going to use my chariots like Legend did in his video. I'm going to arrange them in lines and I'm going to use them as a concentrated force. I'm just going to run them all into one unit, break it, move on to the next pile of units, break through it, try and keep them moving, try and keep them causing damage, and not allow the enemy infantry to get any say in the battle. Now, I'm nowhere near as good a commander as Legend of Total War is, of course, but I'm going to try and emulate the strategy there. I have my general hidden over here. He's not going to be taking any part in the battle. Let's just get into it now. Oh, great. Get out of group. So the reason that happened was because they were in group, so it took us as a group attack order. Okay, crash. And straight into the Trojan chariots here. We need to keep them moving, keep them charging. And you can see already that the Trojan chariots are taking a lot of damage from this concentrated charge. Okay, we've hit the chariots, the archers are already running away. Now we're going to go into the spearmen and try and hit them as well. Break through here. We're just trying to bowl the spears over by sheer mass. And keep charging. And yeah, you can see that the spears are having trouble stopping us at all. Into the champions of Troy. Okay, the chariots are coming back after us. Into the chariots then. And now into the chariots of Troy. So it's difficult. One of the problems the AI is having here is it's not concentrating its spearmen. So I'm able to concentrate all of my power in one place and able to keep going, but it may not matter. Look at this, we're just running straight over everything. There are so many chariots on the screen right now that my computer's having trouble processing it. Yep, right through everything. More broken archers. Now the reason I'm investigating it like this is that this has big implications for the release of multiplayer in November. If the Creative Assembly can't or won't fix this, then how do you respond to this as a human player? If your opponent just takes a swarm of chariots, they could bring a normal army, or they could bring chariots. You don't know beforehand, and if they bring this massive swarm of chariots and nothing else works, look, there's the army losses penalty setting in, so we've won at this point. What do we do? Now, I don't want this video to be a negative thing. This was really just an investigation of a potential balance problem, and there does seem to be a balance problem here because there doesn't seem to be anything right now that can beat a concentrated swarm of chariots. Now, it's possible that when a human player gets involved, there are things you can do to stop the chariots. I'm going to try this again from my perspective. I'm going to take the same army the AI had, I'm going to give them the chariot swarm, and I'm going to see if I can stop it. But the problem is, that will be me against the AI, and the AI probably won't use their chariots in the way I'm doing so here. Unfortunately, we won't get to see human on human until the multiplayer is out. We can see from the balance of power that the casualties weren't even close. 44 losses against an army that lost 2/3 of its strength. This was extremely one-sided. So here I am again with practically the same army. I think the experience is a little bit different, but other than that, it's pretty much the same army the AI had, and we're facing the same chariot swarm as before, with more or less identical experience. Let's get into it. Sorry folks, small detail, I had to make sure that I was the defender so that the chariots came towards us in a charge. That's the only difference now. Let's go. Now, I have set up in a very deep reverse crescent formation, and the depth is to try and give my spearmen the ability to withstand that chariot charge, catch the chariots, and then hopefully bring them down as they try and press through the line. Now, I suspect that part of the problem is that, well, first of all, the chariots will knock our troops down, so we don't get a chance to get those attacks in because all of the figures have been knocked around. On top of that, the chariots are rather tough. They've got a lot of defense, and the chances are that we can't bring down a charioteer in time before they're through the formation, and then they're back through the formation and into the archers. But I think the main thing is the sheer mass of chariots, and of course remember it's a wave of chariots that are coming through, pushing and so the infantry just keep getting knocked to the ground, and there's very little that they can physically do to touch the chariots. They get some damage in. We did see some damage on the chariots in the last battle, and some chariots were brought down, but it's not enough to actually stop the formation. Eventually the chariots just press through and knock everyone over, and so we'll just see if I can stop this formation with the AI involved. This doesn't really mean anything in my opinion, because a human player will play better than the AI does, but let's see if with the right formation I can at least stop an AI chariot spam. Okay, here they come. Archers are firing. I'll let them fire at will because there's no way I'm going to be able to manage this. Turn skirmish mode off, otherwise we'll run out of the formation. I'm planning to use these chariots as a counter punch. The archers actually caused quite a bit of damage to the chariots going in. Okay, swing out, swing around the chariots. They're going to collide with our line. And now our chariots go in. So look at how badly my spearmen are suffering from this initial charge. So our chariots need to keep charging. We are starting to rout some of the Trojan chariots now, but look at how badly my chariots are suffering.
Your warriors are losing heart.
My chariots are gone. It's up to the spearmen now. Have we taken enough heart out of the Trojan chariots? Now, I am playing on very hard. Maybe this will go differently on standard. I'll try it again on standard if necessary.
Have been routed.
I remind you that this is an army that has been specifically made to counter chariots. And there's nothing. What I could try moving my troops around, being more active. What would I move them against? Because they're already in contact with the enemy. The problem is they can't stop the enemy. All of my units are in contact right now.
You are losing ground.
Well, there's nothing I can do now. There we go. So I'll be back on standard difficulty this time. Let's have a look at the casualty screen first. We killed almost 200 of them. That's not even a third of their army, and we were again obliterated. 2/3 of my force lost. Okay, standard difficulty this time. Okay, so this time on standard difficulty I have deployed in forest, which is supposed to give a disadvantage to large units such as chariots. So if there's anywhere an infantry force should be able to defend themselves from chariots, it's in bushes like this. So let's see if this works. Look, difficulty's lower and we're in favourable terrain. So when I was fighting as the chariots before, that was on very hard difficulty, by the way, which I wasn't playing on before. Okay, the AI does seem to be trying to avoid me in the rough ground, but that's kind of doing me a disservice because I want to know if my troops can win in this environment. I don't want to see them dance around outside. Okay, I'm going to have to come out because they are obviously not going to come to me unless I reveal myself. Okay, finally the AI advances now that I'm right on the edge of the forest. These troops aren't even in cover anymore. Bring my own chariots out of hiding.
The foe has sighted your hidden units.
I should hope so. They'd have to be pretty blind not to have. So as the chariots get through, they're going to start entering the forest. So far we do actually seem to be fending the chariots off. Again, look at the damage that our spearmen have taken.
Your warriors are losing heart.
But the archers are causing a lot of damage. Have we cleared the side? Okay, let's try and send some reinforcements.
Your warriors have been routed.
Sorry, folks. Come on, we were making progress. No, the chariots have broken up my formation.
Thy Ares, your warriors are rallying.
He's rallied up. We need all the help we can get here. We've shattered one unit of chariots. It's hard to see what's going on.
Your warriors are rallying.
Oh, there's so few of our troops left. The problem is I have no mobility. The chariots have complete control of the battlefield. I can try and move my spearmen, but the chances are that's just going to land us into trouble as we lose formation. So we had a moment where we were getting an upper hand where there was enough spear mass to slow the chariots down and bring them to a halt, but once my formation broke up and was scattered around the field, there was very little we could do about it. I need to try and grab these individual groups, brace them against the charge. They're gonna enter a unit of our chariots. I'm reclaiming some lost ground now that I've organised myself a little bit into these pockets. That's the sound of an entire unit getting wiped out. Stay close to these archers and protect them. You guys come back over to here. In fact, try and form something resembling a battle line over here. I think our hero's doing some work. Actually, I think this is something else. Let's use some hero abilities and try and help ourselves out a little bit. Okay, we can maybe bring this unit down. They've not got much left. Look how hard it is to rout these chariots. So that was one of the enemy's elite chariot units. The situation has become so fragmented I can barely see what's going on anymore. The AI seems to have spread their chariots all over the field. That's just completely wiped out a unit of chariots. Hit them and then counterattack with their spearmen. So my hero is a defender. That's a bit more powerful than the enemy's warlord, I believe, so that's why we're winning the melee over here, despite the fact that I'm not paying much attention to this. We've broken that unit of chariots, just make sure they actually do leave the field. There they go, shot down anyway. Uh-oh. Don't let them hit us. Good, that's another unit shattered. Army losses. So by the skin of our teeth and using the strongest defensive formation I could think of, we've managed to win the day. But that was hard going. And look at what's left of my army, there's barely anything. We would have been suffering army losses soon. Anyway, let's have a look at the results screen. Cadmean victory. That's a pretty fair assessment. So all of these heavy spearmen, all of these bowmen and our own chariots, and we lost 1,367 men, only 458 remaining. That was on standard difficulty, that was against the AI, with forces specifically chosen to counter chariots. And I still almost lost my entire army. So I do think there is a balance problem here, and if this had been a human player who was controlling these chariots, I wouldn't have stood a chance. I think I would have, well, I can't say that for starters because we haven't tested it, but I think I would have been driven off the field in terror. Anyway, well, but this still has to be investigated. So if anyone sees this who wants to investigate it, try recording your own match with these chariots and see how well you can do and see what army combinations you can come up with. Maybe some of the mythological units could help. Maybe a better balance of chariots, spearmen and archers would help. Maybe some parts of the formation should be just cut out. Maybe just chariots and archers. Though, again, we're trying to get away from the chariot spam, we're trying to get away from the unit spam and into a more balanced army that you could take into battle against something else as well as just against the chariot spam. So it would be remiss of me to bring up this balance issue and not suggest any potential ways it could be fixed. If you're going to make the chariots extremely powerful like this, one thing you could simply do is massively increase the cost of units of chariots. So make them cost far more. And now, while that may not sound like a very appealing suggestion, you would basically turn them into extra elite troops. There is a historical precedent because chariots were extremely expensive. They were extremely hard to maintain. They cost a lot of money to produce. Not just the chariots, but the horsemen and the highly trained individuals who went into battle on them. And furthermore, if you lost a chariot and you lost a man on the chariot, it took a long time to replace the unit. So you could make them far more expensive to reflect that. You could also limit their number on the field. So for instance, again, as I said, there's a limited pool of skilled individuals to ride these chariots. So you could make it that you could maybe only bring 4 per army, or maybe 4 chariots per full army that you have. And then if you wanted to concentrate your chariots, you could then place them all into one army, but then you would only have one such army in the field for your entire faction, and of course other factions could have their own army of roaming chariots. And so it would turn the chariots into an elite force of decision, which has to be concentrated in the right place, rather than just something that you can spam out freely with no consequences. Part of the issue seems to be the way the collision engine works, because these chariots are knocking units down, and I don't think they're getting the chance to get up and fight very effectively, or the chariots are just moving so quickly that the collision engine can't register the infantry's attacks, and they aren't able to cause any damage to the moving chariots. So the problem is, something like that that's so fundamental to the mechanics may be much harder for CA to solve than just tweaking the cost or tweaking the availability of the units or adjusting the unit stats. So I mean, another way could just be to nerf the chariot stats into the ground. I'm not really sure how to go about fixing this myself. It's a mechanical problem that the Creative Assembly need to look at. But I did need to at least say my piece there. Anyway folks, I have been Napoleon Complex. Thank you for watching this video. Please consider liking and subscribing if you enjoyed the content, and I will see you next time. I would very much like to hear your comments, by the way, because I imagine a lot of people have their thoughts on this. Farewell for now, and don't let the warbands grind you down.